They dressed murder up as true love. They repackaged theft as a gift from fate. They turned their wedding into the city's grandest spectacle. They believed I was Ash, but I am alive, and I will drag them from the pinnacle of their happiness straight into hell. My name is Iris. Iris Vance. Iris, like the flower, like the colored part of the eye, like a messenger from the gods. My mother chose it because she wanted me to rise high, never to be tethered by anyone's hand. She taught me to write the name from her hospital bed, tracing the letters on the fogged window glass with a finger so thin you could see the light through it. She said my name was a bird in flight. She said it with her eyes bright, the way they always got when she talked about the future, even when the future had already begun to flicker out inside her. What she didn't tell me was that sometimes the hand holding you back is your own, blinded by trust you should never have given. And she certainly never told me that a bird with a broken string doesn't soar into the sky. It plummets straight into the abyss. My mother died when I was 14. She went quietly, a light rain falling outside the window, the cardiac monitor tracing its final long, flat note. My father held her hand. I stood at the foot of the bed and watched the light in her eyes dim, flicker, and go out. The last thing she said to me was, "Iris, learn to see people for who they really are." I didn't learn. 3 years ago, I married Lucas Sterling, youngest CEO in the history of Sterling Corporation, the kind of man business magazines put on their covers and called a visionary. Forbes 30 under 30, 3 years running. He had beautiful hands, long, clean fingers, well-defined knuckles, the kind of hands that looked like they belonged on a concert pianist. Every woman in the company envied me the sight of that wedding band on his finger. Our wedding was held at the most luxurious hotel in River City. 500 guests. A cathedral of flowers. The light from 100 crystal chandeliers spilled across the train of my white gown like liquid starlight. He stood at the end of the aisle in a custom white tuxedo, his eyes glistening. When the officiant asked, "Lucas Sterling, do you take Iris Vance to be your lawfully wedded wife?" He paused for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for the entire room to fall absolutely silent. Then, in a voice so tender it could have melted glaciers, he said, "Iris is the only woman I have ever wanted to marry." My maid of honor, Chloe Sinclair, stood behind me, crying harder than I was. Her mascara ran in dark rivulets down her cheeks, cutting tracks through her foundation. I caught her reflection in the mirror and thought, to have a friend who weeps like this for my happiness. This is my true good fortune. When I placed my hand in Lucas's, I believed I was the luckiest woman in the world. 3 years later, I was dead. I died on our anniversary, the 3rd anniversary, on the airport expressway, driving home. It was a beautiful afternoon, early autumn, the sunlight slanting through the windshield warm on the backs of my hands, the way my mother's hands used to feel. The car stereo was playing Lucas's favorite jazz, a lazy, honeyed saxophone. On the passenger seat lay his anniversary gift, a limited edition Mont Blanc pen, L&S, engraved on the cap. Lucas and Iris. I'd found it in Switzerland, during a business trip. I'd gone to 3 different stores to track it down. He liked beautiful, delicate, expensive things, and I liked giving them to him. He'd been uncharacteristically eager for me to come home that week, texting several times a day to confirm my flight time, saying he had a surprise waiting. He'd never remembered our anniversary before. Every year, I'd been the one to remind him. This year, he'd brought it up himself. I'd been quietly, secretly thrilled. I thought he'd finally understood. Chloe had called that afternoon too, her voice light and breezy. "Iris, what time are you getting home? I bought you a gift. I want to drop it off." She rarely bought me things. I was always the one buying things for her. I laughed and asked what had gotten into her, and she said, "I just miss you, that's all." I drove. I thought about what surprise Lucas might have waiting. I wondered what gift Chloe had picked out. The saxophone on the stereo climbed to its highest note. In the rearview mirror, the sunset was perfect. Then a heavy cargo truck came across the median. Its high beams swelled like 2 small suns, burning straight into my pupils. The white light obliterated everything. I wrenched the wheel on instinct. The tires shrieked against the asphalt. The smell of scorched rubber flooded the car. But the distance was too short. Short enough that I could see the driver's face through the windshield, square-jawed, skin dark and rough, cheekbones high, lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. His eyes were calm, not the panic of a man caught in an accident. Not the glassy drift of someone falling asleep at the wheel. A steady, almost bovine calm. The calm of a butcher eyeing livestock. That calm terrified me more than any snarl ever could. In the last second before impact, my mind went into overdrive, a film reel on fast forward, every frame burning up as it passed. I saw the day I first brought Lucas home to meet my father. They talked for a long time. After Lucas left, my father was silent for half the evening. Finally, he said, "That man has too many things behind his eyes. I can't see through him." I thought my father was being paranoid. We argued about it. I saw the board meeting last year. Lucas proposed an overseas investment, $80 million. I vetoed it at the last minute because the due diligence report on the acquisition target came back murky. He exploded at me afterward. Said I didn't trust him. Said I kept him on too tight a leash. Said I treated him like an outsider. It was the worst fight of our marriage. Later, he apologized. Said he understood my concerns. I believed him. I saw Chloe, the girl I'd known for 20 years. The first day of middle school, she stood at the front of the classroom, too shy to lift her head. The teacher sat her next to me. She hadn't brought lunch. I split my bento box with her. She said it was the best braised pork she'd ever tasted. She said, from that day on, she'd decided we would be friends for life. She knew the passwords to all my bank accounts. She knew the combination to my safe. She knew which drawer I kept the company seal in. She knew everything. Like a fool, I had told her everything. The white Porsche Cayenne flipped over the guardrail. It rolled 2.5 times in the air before slamming into the river. The seatbelt nearly sheared through my collarbone. Freezing water poured through the shattered windows, black with silt and sharp with the chemical reek of diesel. The water pressure clamped my chest like an enormous fist. I heard my ribs creak. I heard metal groaning, the frame of my car crumpling under the river's weight. I heard water roaring into my ear canals, a million bees buzzing inside my own skull. I heard the last heavy, slowing beats of my own heart. My blood bloomed in the water, a red cloud, slowly diluting to pale pink, then vanishing. In the last shred of consciousness, only one word. Why? Not resentment. Not rage. Just genuine, bewildered incomprehension. What had I done to deserve this? I had given you my whole heart, and you complained it wasn't warm enough. I had given you my absolute trust, and you complained it wasn't valuable enough. And then everything went black. Now, I stand outside the most luxurious 5-star hotel in the heart of River City. The giant LED screen above the entrance scrolls with gilded letters. Congratulations to Mr. Lucas Sterling and Ms. Chloe Sinclair on their wedding. The photograph was taken 2 months ago in Sonia, a beach shoot, sea and sky merging into a single impossible blue. Lucas has his arms wrapped around Chloe's waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. They are smiling with a sweetness that looks almost edible. Chloe is wearing a fishtail wedding gown. The same designer as mine, 3 years ago. She had to have the same dress. She had to have the same man. The screen refreshes every 30 seconds, cycling through their poses. This one, foreheads touching. That one, Chloe holding up her hand to show off the engagement ring. The next, Lucas down on one knee, kissing her knuckles. Every image is perfectly composed, perfectly lit, a perfect declaration to the world of their perfect happiness. Today marks exactly 6 months since my death. A lot has happened in these 6 months. The river carried me 37 kilometers downstream to a shallow bank. My body was a ruin. For broken ribs, a shattered left tibia, 17 lacerations across my face from the shattered windshield, shards of glass embedded in the flesh, mixed with river silt, tangled water weeds, and congealed blood. My face was no longer a face. It was a mash of torn tissue and exposed bone. An old fisherman named Ben, who'd spent his whole life pulling nets from that river, found me. He told me later that he first saw a pale hand sticking out of the mud on the bank. He thought it was a mannequin, something a clothing store had thrown away, washed up by the current. He walked closer. The hand twitched. He dropped his fish basket and nearly ran. Then he realized what he was looking at, and he grabbed me and hauled. He said my body was cold as ice, my lips blue, my eyes motionless. He thought he was dragging a corpse. He pressed his fingers under my nose for a long time before he felt the faintest ghost of breath. He loaded me onto his rusted 3-wheeled cart and drove me over 40 minutes of rutted dirt road to the nearest town clinic. My blood soaked through the cart bed and dripped through the gaps in the iron plates onto the dirt. The doctor said another 10 minutes, and there would have been nothing left to save. I spent 11 days in the ICU. My heart stopped twice. They shocked me back, and the freshly set ribs cracked again under the paddles, and they set them again. Eventually, they moved me to a regular ward. I was unconscious for 17 days before I woke. When I opened my eyes, my entire body was wrapped in bandages. My face was swaddled like a mummy. My vocal cords were so damaged I couldn't make a single sound. I wanted to ask who I was, but I knew perfectly well. I was Iris Vance, a woman who should not be alive. I could feel my own heartbeat. I could hear the monitor beeping. I could smell the antiseptic. But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't tell anyone who I was. The police, working from the vehicle wreckage and a DNA comparison with the remains, declared me deceased. I later learned why the DNA had matched. Lucas had bribed a technician named Kyle Gua, the younger brother of one of his college friends, employed at the Forensic Identification Center. Kyle had swapped the test samples, replacing the biological material recovered from my car with tissue from an unidentified female corpse. A body stolen from a funeral home. A woman roughly my age and build, rendered unrecognizable after 3 days in the water. In the eyes of the law, Iris Vance was dead. Killed in a car accident. Killed in a murder. Killed by a net woven jointly by her husband and her best friend. Lucas took the death certificate and our marriage license and, in his capacity as my spouse, inherited everything I owned. My 30% stake in Sterling Corporation, valued, at the time, at over $40 billion. 7 properties, a 300-square-meter penthouse in the city center, a beachfront villa in Sanya, a flat in Hong Kong's mid-levels, a Riverview apartment in Shanghai's Lijiazui, and 3 historic houses my father had left me. 3 offshore accounts, with a combined balance equivalent to over $200 million. All the jewelry my mother had ever left me, over a dozen pieces, together worth more than $30 million. He completed all the paperwork in 2 months. Faster than I ever managed to get anything done while I was alive. Faster than we'd handled the property transfers when we got married. Faster than a routine corporate filing. And I survived. Under a different name. Luna Ashford, 26 years old. Returned overseas Chinese. Ivy League finance graduate. Beneficiary of a family trust. This new face, this new biography, this new identity. I bought them with emergency funds my father had secretly stashed in a Swiss bank account before he died. The money was kept in a private vault beneath a bank in Zurich. Even Lucas never knew about it. My father took me there once, on my 20th birthday. He made me memorize the vault code and the fingerprint lock sequence. He said, "Iris, you are the heir to Sterling, but you must always keep a way out for yourself. Sterling doesn't belong only to you, but this escape route does." He looked very serious, not like a father celebrating his daughter's birthday, but like a veteran captain pointing out the lifeboats. I thought he was being paranoid. I thought he was borrowing trouble. Now I know. He'd seen too many betrayals in business, fathers against sons, wives against husbands. The one thing he didn't foresee was that he wouldn't live to see me need that escape route. The original owner of this identity was real. A Chinese-American girl who grew up abroad, isolated and withdrawn, her parents dead, no surviving relatives. She had chosen assisted death in Switzerland last year, after a long struggle with severe depression. It took my people enormous effort to find her records. They replaced the photograph, the fingerprints, segments of her personal history, and made me, in the legal sense, her. It's a bitter irony. I stole a dead woman's identity to avenge my own murder. The reconstructive surgery took 3 procedures. The first repaired the facial bones, rebuilt the shattered right cheekbone and orbital socket, secured with 3 titanium pins. The second handled soft tissue reconstruction and scar repair, grafting 3 patches of skin from my inner thigh to my face. The third was for fine-tuning, the angle of the eyes, the width of the nostrils, the thickness of the lips. Every time I came out of the operating room, my face was wrapped in so much gauze it felt like I was suffocating. The swelling made me look like I'd been stung by a hive of hornets. The pain kept me awake for nights on end. Painkillers lasted a few hours at best. When they wore off, it felt like someone was dragging a rasp back and forth across my bones. The day the bandages came off, I looked in the mirror for the first time. A stranger looked back. Higher cheekbones, a sharper jaw, thinner lips. The soft, round eyes I'd been born with had been reshaped into something longer, keener, almost feline. I couldn't recognize myself. I stared into that mirror for a long time, touching my own cheekbones, my jaw, the corners of my eyes, like someone running their fingers over a stranger's face. Then I thought of Lucas. I thought of Chloe. I thought of the truck driver with the blank, calm eyes. This face, I told myself, is not a stranger's face. This face is a blade. Every scar is a debt waiting to be collected. Every contour that differs from what came before is an oath carved into my bones. Rehab was worse. The muscles in my legs had atrophied to dry twigs. The first time I tried to stand, I went straight down, my knees cracking against the cold tile, pain shuddering through my entire body. The nurse moved to help. I shook my head. I bit down on the bed rail and pulled myself up, hand over hand. Then I gripped the wall and walked. One step at a time. Every step felt like walking on razors. The bones in my lower legs hadn't fully knitted, and every time I put weight on them, my vision widened out. But I didn't cry. I haven't cried since the crash. The river took all my tears. What's left is something harder. Every morning, I was up at 5. I walked the hospital corridor, gripping the rail, from 5 to 7. After breakfast, I walked more. Until lunch. After lunch, I walked until dark. 3 months later, I could walk normally. 6 months later, I could run. Now, I walk in 7-centimeter heels with more steadiness than any runway model. Every step, I repeat their names in my head. Then came the acquisition war. The longest, most complex phase of the entire plan. Through 3 offshore holding companies and 5 domestic shell corporations, I began quietly absorbing Sterling Corporation's floating shares on the secondary market. No single account held more than 2%, never triggering the mandatory disclosure threshold. Every purchase was scattered across different time windows to avoid any unusual price movement. It was painstaking, maddening work, like building a house of cards on the head of a pin. During rehab, I slept 4 hours a night. The rest of the time, I was on my laptop in that hospital bed, executing trades. I analyzed Sterling's equity structure. I tracked every movement in the float. I calculated the cost and risk of every single buy order. I poured every last dollar from the Swiss account into the operation. I called in favors from old contacts overseas, borrowing enormous sums. I bet everything I had. Failure was not an option. 15%. In 6 months, I went from a bedridden trauma patient to the second largest shareholder of Sterling Corporation. Add that to the 30% Lucas inherited from me. Shares that are about to find their way back to their rightful owner, and 45% of Sterling will soon be under my control. I am not here today to attend a wedding. I am here to drag those two from the clouds into the abyss. The ballroom is on the 3rd floor, the Grand Hall. The entire floor has been booked. The moment the elevator doors open, a cloying wave of white roses, champagne, and expensive perfume hits me, thick enough to gag on. I walk in wearing red. The dress was custom-made for me by a Chinese-Italian designer in Milan. Satin, with a cold, liquid sheen under the light. Clean lines, a deep V cut into the back that reveals the top of a new tattoo along my spine. A phoenix, wings spread. The phoenix that rises from its own ashes. The designer asked what color I wanted. I said red. She said red was too loud, too aggressive for a wedding. I said I know. Today, black is for mourning. White is for blessing. Red is a declaration of war. The welcome area is obscenely opulent. White roses carpet the path from the entrance to the main stage. I estimate no fewer than 20,000 blooms, every single one flown in from the flower markets of Kunming, petals still beaded with morning dew. The light from the crystal chandeliers spills across them, refracting into 1,000 tiny points of light, like a white galaxy. An entire wall has been converted into a floral installation, white and pale pink roses spelling out Lucas and Chloe. Beside it, a giant wedding portrait. In the photograph, Chloe wears a custom fishtail gown that couldn't have cost less than $2 million. The lace on the train is all hand-embroidered by a century-old French atelier, each flower worked in 7 gradients of thread. At her throat hangs a diamond necklace. The centerpiece, a teardrop D-color flawless stone, at least 10 carats, glittering in the photographer's carefully placed backlight. And her engagement ring, a pink diamond, the center stone at least 6 carats, the cut world-class, blazing under the lights. The color of that diamond is distinctive, not the usual pale, washed-out pink. This one has an orange undertone, a warm sunset glow when the light hits it right, like the last rays of the sun falling on fresh snow. Diamonds of this exact shade are vanishingly rare. There are only a handful in the world. This one was mined in South Africa in the 1930s, brought to Shanghai by a Jewish jeweler, and after passing through several hands, it ended up with my grandmother. I fix my gaze on the ring in that photograph, and my fingernails dig into my palms so hard they leave 4 deep, bloodless crescents. The pain keeps me focused. It keeps me from lunging at her right now and tearing her apart. That ring is my mother's last keepsake. I was 14 when she died. She lay in the oncology ward, a skeleton with skin stretched over it. She pulled the ring off her finger. Her fingers were so thin by then it nearly slid off on its own, and pressed it into my palm. Her grip was so weak she couldn't even close my fist around it. She just pressed her hand over mine. "Wear this when you get married," she said. "Think of it as me being there. I don't have anything valuable to leave you, just this ring. My mother gave it to me. I'm giving it to you." Her voice was faint, like a dry leaf settling onto the ground. I was too young to fully understand the weight of a dying gift. I just thought the ring was pretty. Later, I learned what it really was. An Argyle pink diamond from the 1930s, my grandmother's dowry. My grandmother's family had run a jewelry empire in Shanghai. At its peak, they owned half the gold shops on Nanjing Road. The war destroyed everything. They sold off all their assets. The only thing my grandmother kept was this ring, sewn into the lining of her undergarment when she fled. I wore it on my wedding day. Lucas slid it onto my finger, and I said, "This was my mother's. You have to keep it safe for me." He said, "Don't worry. I'll treasure it the same way I treasure you." Chloe couldn't even let my mother's final gift rest in peace. Her greed has no bottom. Her shamelessness has no limit. The ballroom holds over 500 guests. River City's entire constellation of power has turned out. Property tycoons, finance executives, senior government officials, a handful of celebrities whose faces I recognize from television, and a vast sea of people whose names I don't know, but whose presence radiates importance. The guests are clustered in their silks and jewels, laughing and gossiping, the clink of crystal flutes rising and falling like strange music. Floral arrangements line both sides of the room, red silk ribbons bearing the names of the senders and their congratulatory messages. Every name a piece on River City's chessboard of power. Servers weave through the crowd, trays laden with champagne and delicate canapes. Dom Perignon, $3,000 a bottle, poured like water. A 3-tier wedding cake stands to the left of the stage, its sugar flower roses almost indistinguishable from the real ones. Nobody remembers the woman named Iris Vance. Nobody cares how she died, whether her body was ever recovered, whether her father has anyone to look after him. They only care about getting closer to the new CEO of Sterling Corporation tonight, about expanding their networks at this wedding of the century, about drinking as much free top-shelf champagne as they can hold. I take a seat in the corner and order a glass of red wine. The server's gaze lingers on me a beat too long. My red dress is a wound in a sea of soft champagne, blush pink, and lavender gowns. I don't meet his eyes. I just swirl the wine gently, watching the dark legs streak down the inside of the glass like trails of dried blood. About 20 minutes pass. The lights dim. The wedding march begins, and the room rises. It's Wagner's Bridal Chorus. The same piece I walked down the aisle to 3 years ago. Even the orchestra is the same, the River City Philharmonic. I'd hired their string quartet for my wedding. Today, they've brought the full orchestra. Every note drives into my heart like a nail, but my face betrays nothing. The spotlight hits the center of the ballroom doors. 2 gilded doors swing open, pushed by 2 small flower girls in tiny tuxedos. Chloe Sinclair glides down the aisle on the arm of her father, Charles Sinclair. She wears the $2 million custom gown, the fishtail skirt encrusted with Swarovski crystals, every step glittering like she's walking on starlight. Her veil is 6 meters long, carried by 2 more flower girls, flowing behind her like a white waterfall. Her makeup is flawless, sweeping lashes, the most fashionable rose beige on her lips. Her eyes glisten with perfectly calibrated tears. She looks like a princess cherished by the entire world. Charles Sinclair wears a brand new black suit, his hair freshly dyed an unconvincing black. He walks with his stomach pushed out, his face wearing the expression of a man thinking, "My daughter has married into wealth." The guests murmur their admiration. "Stunning. Lucas is a lucky man. Such a beautiful bride." I heard the bride was Iris Vance's best friend. After Iris passed, she stayed by Lucas's side, taking care of him. Love grew out of shared grief. It's actually quite touching. Exactly. You can't fault them for finding comfort in each other. Iris, looking down from heaven, would probably be happy for them. Love grew out of shared grief. Finding comfort in each other. Iris, looking down from heaven, would be happy. I set my wine glass back on the table. The base strikes the surface with a small, sharp click, lost in the ambient murmur. It takes enormous effort to keep my fingers from trembling. Not from grief. From rage. How black does a heart have to be to dress murder up as love grown from grief? How thick does the skin have to be to repackage theft as finding comfort in each other? How utterly, breathtakingly shameless do you have to be to imagine that the woman you murdered would be happy for you? Chloe reaches the end of the aisle. Lucas takes her hand. He wears a white tuxedo, exquisitely cut, the fabric shimmering subtly under the lights. A white rose is pinned to his lapel. His hair has been meticulously styled. Every strand is where it should be. He looks down at Chloe, and his eyes are full of tenderness. The exact same tenderness he looked at me with 3 years ago. The angle of his smile hasn't even changed. It's a fixed expression, rehearsed 1,000 times. He's still wearing the Patek Philippe I bought him. The deep blue starry sky dial. On the back of the case, the engraving. IV to LSH Iris Vance to Lucas Sterling. He's wearing it while holding another woman's hand, standing at an altar that should have been mine. That engraving is pressed against the back of her hand now, pressed against the name of a dead woman. The officiant, standing between them, beams and begins the vows. He's the most famous wedding MC in River City. His fee, I've heard, is in the 6 figures. He's known for his rich, honeyed voice and his impeccable timing. Lucas Sterling, do you take Chloe Sinclair to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for better or worse? I do. His voice is steady and warm. Exactly the same as last time. Chloe Sinclair, do you take Lucas Sterling to be your lawfully wedded husband? For richer or poorer, in sickness and in health? I do. The perfect, quavering sob in her voice, the tail of the last syllable trembling upward as if she's overcome with emotion. She lifts a hand to dab at the corner of her eye. The pink diamond on her ring finger catches the spotlight and blazes. My diamond, blazing on her hand. If anyone here present knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. The officiant says this with a light, breezy smile, clearly just going through the motions. He has probably never, in his entire career, had someone actually object. A few of the young groomsmen near the front jokingly crane their necks toward the door. One of them lets out a small, sharp whistle. The bridesmaids giggle. I object. The room goes absolutely silent. The officiant's smile freezes on his face, his mouth still open, a robot suddenly unplugged. 500 heads swivel toward the source of the voice. Someone drops a canopy. It rolls across the white tablecloth, leaving a smear of cream. A wine glass hangs in midair, the red wine trickling down the side and bleeding onto the white linen. The orchestra stumbles to a halt. The last drumbeat echoes in the cavernous hall. I rise to my feet, wine glass in hand, and walk down the center of the red carpet toward the main stage. My heels strike the marble floor with the steady rhythm of a countdown. The guests break into frantic whispers. Phones come out, recording. Faces twist with shock, confusion, and a kind of ghoulish excitement. Lucas frowns. His eyes shift from irritation to confusion to a cold, sharp wariness. He glances toward the security chief standing at the side door, his chin lifting slightly. That's his habitual tell when he's about to give an order. But he doesn't have me thrown out immediately. He knows anyone sitting in this room, dressed as I am, is unlikely to be a random lunatic. Miss, who exactly are you? The officiant's voice has gone up half an octave. My name is Luna Ashford, founder of Ashford Capital, the second largest shareholder of Sterling Corporation. I stand in the center of the aisle. My voice is quiet, but every word lands like a nail driven into the air of the ballroom. I'm not here to cause a scene. I've simply brought the bride and groom a wedding gift. What kind of gift? Lucas's voice has gone cold. A recording. I pull my phone from my clutch and press play. The ballroom sound system was patched into my device an hour ago by my people. The company providing the lighting and audio for this wedding is run by the younger brother of one of my college classmates. The technician, during the final sound check last night, took the liberty of pairing my phone to the central audio system via Bluetooth. The voices that fill the room now, broadcast through the top-of-the-line speakers on every wall, are so clear it's as if the speakers are standing right beside each guest. First recording. Background noise. A faint keyboard clatter and the hum of a printer. An office. Lucas's voice comes first, tight with a pent-up, simmering impatience. Iris is completely in the way. She's got a death grip on the company and won't delegate a thing. The finance department is packed with her loyalists. I can't make the simplest investment decision without her signature. Anything over $500,000, she has to approve personally. And the board, those old fossils only recognize her authority, not mine. I'm the CEO, and I can't even change a supplier without her permission. Chloe's voice, soft and placating, like someone soothing a cranky child. Why rush? Take your time. She trusts me completely. I know more about the company's operations than she does. I have all her passwords, banking, email, the company OA system's superadmin login, even her phone unlock code. I know which drawer the finance department's official seal is in. I know which potted plant the backup key to the safe is hidden behind. Once she's dead, everything will be ours. What you need to do right now isn't argue with her. It's to keep her trusting you. Second recording. The background has changed. Quiet now. The faint hum of a car engine. A distant car horn. Lucas's voice is low. Is the accident arranged? An unfamiliar male voice, rough and gravelly. All set. The truck driver is old Gus Lawson. Long-haul trucker. Terminal liver cancer. Doctors gave him 6 months, max. He's got a daughter in her second year of college. Wife ran off a couple years ago. We gave him $1 million up front. Another $1 million after the job is done. Plus monthly support for his daughter until she finishes university. He's agreed to take the fall. Lucas, you're sure nothing goes wrong? This guy is reliable. Male voice. Mr. Sterling, don't worry. Gus is a man who'll do anything for money. I scouted that stretch of road with him personally. The bend at kilometer 15 on the airport expressway. No cameras for 3 kilometers in either direction. Gus waits at the bend. When he sees the white Cayenne coming, he hits it head on. No hesitation. Afterward, he calls the police himself, says he nodded off at the wheel. The accident report gets filed. Insurance pays out. Case closed. The guy's got terminal cancer anyway. Even if he goes inside, he won't last long. Third recording. Chloe's voice. Light, breezy, as if discussing the weather. Has Gus's body been confirmed? Lucas, confirmed. After he turned himself in, sudden cardiac arrest in the detention center. The coroner ruled natural causes. His daughter got $2 million in compensation. The girl doesn't suspect a thing. She thinks her dad committed suicide. She even thanked me when she signed the paperwork. Thanked me for helping handle her father's affairs. Chloe lets out a small, soft laugh. It's a delicate sound, like a glass bead dropping onto a tile floor. Good. I was worried he might start talking once he was inside. Now it's all nice and clean. So what about Iris's things? That pink diamond ring. When are you going to get it out of the safe? Lucas, once the death certificate is officially issued. Be patient. It's all yours. The 3 recordings finish. Between each one, I left 5 seconds of dead air, enough for every word to sink, solid and irremovable, into the brains of everyone in this room. The ballroom is as silent as a tomb. 500 people, and you can hear the central air conditioning hissing through the vents. You can hear a wine glass rattling faintly against a table. You can hear someone who's been holding their breath for too long suck in a desperate gasp. Guests stare at each other, mouths hanging open in perfect OS. A champagne flute shatters on the floor. In the front row, several elderly men have turned the color of old cement. Members of Sterling Corporation's board of directors. Chloe's face has drained of all color. Not the white of makeup, but the ghastly, bloodless pallor of a person whose capillaries have just constricted in pure shock. She looks like a doll drained of its stuffing. She clutches Lucas's arm, her fingernails digging so deep into the fabric of his jacket that her knuckles are white. Her lips tremble like leaves in a typhoon. This isn't real. This is fabricated. Who are you? Who the hell are you? Her voice is jagged, shrill, a violin string tightened to the breaking point. Lucas's face has gone white too, but his first reaction isn't panic. It's confusion. The rapid, calculating confusion of a man mentally retracing every step, every digital trail, hunting for the leak. He knows he personally deleted every backup of those recordings. He deleted them off Chloe's phone, off his phone. He even wiped the cloud backups. The confusion hardens into wariness. Where did you get those? His eyes bore into me. Who exactly are you? Who sent you? Where I got them isn't important. I lift my hand and point toward the ballroom entrance. What matters is the man in those recordings. Old Gus. Is this him? The doors swing open. Every head in the ballroom swivels, a room full of puppets on the same string. A middle-aged man in a black jacket walks in. His skin is dark and leathery, cheekbones high, cheeks hollowed into deep concavities. He's so gaunt his shoulder blades jut against the fabric of his jacket. He walks with a slight stoop, the occupational signature of a lifelong long-haul trucker. His eyes are small, the corners deeply creased, his lips dry and cracked. His hair is buzzed short. You can see the age spots on his scalp. The face is utterly expressionless. The exact same face I saw through a windshield 6 months ago, coming straight at me. I could draw that face from memory with my eyes closed, because in the last split second before impact, I locked eyes with him through the glass. I had less than 1 second. I memorized his eyes, his cheekbones, the small dark mole at the left corner of his mouth, 2 centimeters below the lip, like an irregular black period. Lucas's composure finally, completely shatters. It is the terror of seeing a dead man walk. He stumbles backward, his legs hitting the Vow's podium. The microphone stand topples with a screech of feedback that tears through the ballroom. Impossible. His lips are quivering. He's dead. I saw it myself. The coroner's report, the death certificate, official documents from the detention center, they had the official red stamp. Saw what exactly? A coroner's signature? An official stamp. I walked toward the stage, unhurried. Every step is steady. All of it was arranged by us. The real Gus Lawson never spent a single night in that detention center. The coroner you bribed was flagged by our investigators 6 months ago. More accurately, he was identified by the police and flipped. The death certificate he gave you was a forgery. The autopsy report was a forgery. Every document was a forgery. You thought you were weaving a flawless web. You never realized you were the one caught in someone else's. Lucas's pupils contract violently. He whips his head toward Chloe, his eyes wild with the animal terror of a cornered thing. Chloe is even more panicked than he is. Her lips won't stop trembling. She's shaking her head violently, whether she's denying the facts or just denying that she had no idea any of this was coming. I can't tell. For the past 6 months, Gus Lawson has been cooperating fully with the police investigation. He confessed everything. How you found him through an intermediary. That intermediary's name is Victor Young, your college roommate. Victor found Gus waiting for work at the East City Freight Depot. He set up a meeting at the Gathering Pavilion, a tea house on the east side of the city. You negotiated the price with Gus in a private room. Face to face. You described Iris's car to him, a white Porsche Cayenne, license plate ending in 618. You told him to be at the bend at kilometer 15 on the airport expressway at 5:30 that afternoon. When he saw the white Cayenne, he was to hit it head on. No hesitation. No braking. You told him to hit as hard as possible. You told him to leave no survivor. I meet Lucas's eyes. My voice is cold now. Gus gave up every single detail. The time, the location, the amount, the route, the license plate number. Every word matches your call logs, your GPS location data, your bank transfer records, with airtight precision. Do you think a judge is going to believe that's a coincidence? Gus Lawson walks to the front of the stage and stops less than 5 meters from the Vow's podium. He looks at Lucas. His gaze is as placid as a stagnant pond. His voice is a dry rasp. Mr. Sterling, we meet again. That million you still owe me, plus 6 months of interest. How do you want to settle that? He says it flatly, like he's commenting on the price of pork at the market. But that flatness is more devastating than any accusation. Because it isn't an accusation. It isn't rage. It's familiarity. The casual familiarity of two people who have sat across a table from each other, who have negotiated a price, who have shaken hands on a deal. The ballroom plunges into a second, deeper silence. The guests have finally, fully grasped what they are witnessing. This is not a prank. This is not corporate mudslinging. This is not a jilted ex-lover causing a scene. This is an active, unfolding, capital murder case. The bride and groom they were toasting 10 minutes ago are now, in front of 500 witnesses, having their masks peeled off layer by layer. Lucas's face twists from despair into something feral. He rounds on Chloe, jabbing his finger toward her face. It was you. It was all her idea. She was the first one to suggest the car accident. She kept saying as long as Iris was alive, we could never truly be together. She whispered it in my ear every single day for 3 months, like a monk chanting a curse. I was brainwashed, seduced. It's all her fault. Chloe's eyes bulge. Her lips spasm. Then she erupts. Lucas Sterling, you lying bastard. You're the one who came after me. You told me you never married Iris for love. You said you targeted her from university. You said she was the sole heir to Sterling Corporation. You said being with her made you realize what real love was supposed to feel like. You said as soon as she was gone, we would get married. You said it hundreds of times, hundreds, and now you're dumping it all on me. You want to talk about conscience? Lucas seizes her by the shoulders and shakes her violently. You're the one who took that pink diamond ring out of the safe. I told you it was Iris's mother's dying keepsake. And you said, dead women don't need rings. Only the living deserve to wear beautiful things. You thrust your hand in my face and said, put it on me. You're a liar. You opened the safe yourself. The combination came from you. You told me the safe code was the anniversary of Iris's mother's death, 19960-321. You said that was her universal password rule for everything. I told you the code so you could get her father's will for her, not so you could steal her ring. They tear into each other like two rabid dogs locked in the same cage, in front of 500 guests. The conspiracy they nurtured in the dark for 3 years. The murder details they refined in late-night phone calls. The false endearments they whispered on shared pillows. All of it comes vomiting out of their own mouths now, driven by pure, unadulterated terror. Every word is a nail in their own coffins. Every sentence is free evidence for the prosecution. Chloe's carefully styled updo unravels. Strands of hair stick to her tear-streaked face. In the thrashing, Lucas's shoe comes down on the train of her gown, and the silk rips with a wet, tearing sound. A gash half a meter long opening in the skirt. Swarovski crystals scatter across the floor like shattered ice. Lucas loses a button on his jacket. His tie is wrenched around behind his shoulder. His forehead is slick with sweat. Two people who, moments ago, were being toasted as the perfect couple. Now they look like lunatics brawling in the street. So this is their true love. Capable of conspiring to commit murder. Incapable of sharing the consequences. Capable of dividing the spoils. Incapable of facing the judgment together. Both of you, I finally say, my voice flat as still water, are going nowhere. The ballroom doors open again. A dozen uniformed police officers stride in, their footsteps synchronized, their faces grim. The lead officer, a woman in her 40s with 2 bars and a star on her shoulder, moves with the heavy, unhurried authority of someone who has done this many times before. Lucas Sterling. Chloe Sinclair. You are under arrest on suspicion of premeditated homicide, financial fraud, and embezzlement. Please come with us. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Lucas stares at the police. Then he bursts out laughing. A jagged, unhinged cackle, the desperate shriek of a gambler pushing his last chip into the center of the table. Do you know who I am? I am the CEO of Sterling Corporation. I sit on the River City Business Council. Your deputy chief is my Tsinghua MBA classmate. Who dares to arrest me? No one answers. 2 officers step forward and handcuff him with swift, practiced efficiency. The cuffs flash once in the chandelier light. The click of the ratchets closing echoes across the silent hall. Chloe is shrieking on the other side of the stage. A female officer has her by the arm. She thrashes backward, her heel kicking over a 2-meter white rose column, dirt and water spilling across the floor. Her veil fell off long ago and has been trampled underfoot by a panicked waiter Several dark footprints ground into the white tulle. I didn't kill anyone. I only said a few words. Lucas is the one who did it. He found the truck. He hired the man. None of this has anything to do with me. I was coerced. She keeps screaming as they drag her away, her voice scraping like fingernails down a chalkboard. Several bridesmaids and groomsmen have gone white as sheets. One young bridesmaid is crouched on the floor, hands clamped over her ears, shaking. Charles Sinclair stands frozen in the first row of the guest section, a statue struck by lightning. The pride on his face, my daughter has married into wealth, is still half-formed, frozen mid-expression, colliding with the scene in front of him. I walk over and stand in front of Chloe. She's collapsed on the floor, her wedding gown in tatters, her veil gone, her face a ruin of tears and smeared mascara, eyeliner tracking two deep black gullies down her cheeks, lipstick smeared to her chin. She looks up at me, and the fear in her eyes is a flood, an ocean, a drowning. Trying to figure out who I am, I lean down and speak at a volume only she can hear. 20 years ago, a group of girls from the next class cornered you in the school bathroom and beat you. I was the one who shoved through them and dragged you out. I took a punishment for your face. My eye was black for a week. I lied to my father and told him I fell. You clung to me afterward and said, "Sis, I'll repay you someday." 10 years ago, your family went bankrupt. Your father owed $800,000 in gambling debts. The loan sharks had him cornered in your own living room and were about to take his hand off. My father paid off the debt. He told me not to tell you. He said, "That child has suffered enough." When your family moved away to another city, your mother told everyone a relative had helped. That relative's name was Richard Vance. 5 years ago, your boyfriend of 4 years dumped you. You called me at 3 in the morning and sobbed for over an hour. I got on a plane the next morning and flew 3 hours just to be with you. I stayed for 3 days. I took a week off work. The board nearly voted to remove me. When you saw me off at the airport, you said the luckiest thing that ever happened to you was having me as a friend. Your first job at Sterling Corporation? I arranged it. The down payment on your apartment? I paid it. The Porsche you drive? My gift to you for your 26th birthday. The Vacheron Constantine on your wrist? I bought it to celebrate your promotion. The back of the case is engraved. To my best friend. You complained that you were broke at the end of every month, so I always slipped you an extra bonus. You said you wanted to learn about investing, so I gave you my best projects to practice on. You said you wanted a seat in senior management, so I pushed your promotion through over the board's objections. Guess who I am? Her pupils contract into pinpoints. In those tear-drowned, bloodshot eyes, the fear swells up from the ocean floor like a tsunami, drowning the last flicker of denial. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. Her teeth start chattering. She has recognized my voice. Not the new timbre. My vocal cords were repaired during the reconstructive surgery, and my voice is lower now, rougher. But the cadence, the rhythm of my pauses, my unhurried way of laying out facts, the way my sentences rise slightly, then settle at the end. These things no plastic surgeon can alter. Just like the soul behind the eyes can never be replaced. She forces out a single syllable, so faint it's barely a breath. IR. She never finishes it. The female officer hauls her up from the floor and marches her away. She goes limp, a dried-out jellyfish dragged across the red carpet. One heel missing, one bare foot leaving a smeared trail on the white runner. The tatters of her wedding train and the scattered crystals trace a gruesome path behind her. As Lucas is being led past me, he stops. The 2 officers are still pulling him, but he braces his legs and halts, twisting his head to look at me. The wildness has drained from his face, leaving behind something complicated, something I can't quite name. His eyes are red. His lips are dry and cracked. The corner of his mouth twitches. He's looking at my eyes. Not at this unfamiliar face. At my eyes. Eyes don't lie. No matter how many faces you put on, the person behind the eyes never changes. He knows these eyes. He's seen them full of love, full of trust, full of disappointment, cold with distance. And finally, in the last second, full of death. He opens his mouth. All that comes out is a hoarse rasp. Who are you? I don't answer. The officers push him through the doors. His silhouette disappears, still straining to turn back, to catch one more glimpse of me. He never gets it. The doors swing shut behind him. The ballroom erupts. Guests stampede for the exits. Someone is shoved against a table, toppling rows of champagne flutes. Reporters surge forward, their microphones nearly jabbing into my face before security forms a wall. Flashbulbs strobe like lightning in a hurricane. I pick up the microphone the officiant dropped on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, Sterling Corporation will convene an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. At that time, we will announce the appointment of a new CEO. Thank you all for bearing witness today. I set the microphone down on the podium, turn, and walk out. Outside the hotel, the sun is glorious. An early autumn breeze carries the scent of osmanthus, sweet and drifting. I remove my sunglasses and tilt my face upward, drawing the deepest breath I've taken in over half a year. My chest doesn't feel tight anymore. My ribs don't ache. A young woman in a sharp business suit falls into step beside me. Short hair, black-framed glasses, brisk, efficient. Her name is Claire Davis. 6 months ago, she was a brand-new intern at Ashford Capital. When I picked her to be my assistant, everyone said she was too young, that she'd crack under the pressure. She proved them wrong in a week. In 3 months, she proved she could carry even more. Now she's the youngest project director in the firm's history. Ms. Ashford, the car is out front. The police just called. Gus Lawson has completed his supplementary statement. He's filled in all the details he left vague before. The complete call records with Victor Young, the exact time and location of the tea house meeting, the route map Lucas drew for him on the spot. The Forensic Identification Center has sent over the original DNA files from the Iris Vance case 6 months ago. The comparison report shows clear signs of deliberate tampering. The technician involved is Kyle Gua, the younger brother of one of Lucas's university classmates. He's been identified. The police are moving to arrest him now. Keep tracking it. Also, contact Mr. Richard Vance, Iris's father. Tell him the case is solved. The murderers have been brought to justice. Understood. Chloe's mother collapsed at the scene and was taken to the hospital. She's stable. On the media front, we're holding 8 of the top 10 trending spots across all platforms. Public Relations wants to know whether to issue an official statement. Issue it. Keep the language tight and stick to the facts. Emphasize that company operations are normal and tomorrow's board meeting will proceed as scheduled. Notify the legal department to compile the statements Lucas and Chloe made incriminating each other as they were being taken away. Submit the transcript as supplementary evidence to the prosecutor. Got it. Claire jots rapid notes as we walk toward the black Maybach waiting at the curb. The car pulls away from the hotel and merges into the afternoon traffic. In the rearview mirror, the luxury hotel shrinks, then is swallowed by the skyline. The giant LED screen on the facade has already been shut down. Lucas and Chloe's smiling faces have vanished into dark liquid crystal. Beneath the blank screen, a crowd of journalists and onlookers has gathered, some pointing their phones at the hotel, others delivering live reports. My phone vibrates. A message from an unsaved number. For words, "You're back, aren't you?" I stare at the screen for a moment, then flip the phone face down on my lap and close my eyes. It's 8 in the evening by the time I get back to the temporary apartment. The place is on a high floor in the heart of the CBD, 320 square meters, wrapped on 3 sides by the river. The floor-to-ceiling windows frame the most expensive night view in River City. The apartment is rented under Ashford Capital's name. The decor is minimalist to the point of severity: black, white, gray. No furniture beyond the bare essentials. No decorations. I've lived here for 4 months. It doesn't feel like a home. It feels like a war room. On the desk, the equity structure chart lies open. The largest shareholder of Sterling Corporation is still technically Iris Vance, deceased, holding 30%, administered by Lucas Sterling in his capacity as spouse. The second largest is Ashford Capital at 15%. The third largest is Richard Vance at 8%. With Lucas in custody, his shares will be frozen. Under the company's bylaws, the second largest shareholder has the right to call an emergency board meeting to elect a new CEO. I've been waiting for this day for half a year. I sit down at the computer and begin reviewing the materials for tomorrow's board meeting, line by line. The equity restructuring plan, the CEO appointment motion, the new round of financing draft, the corporate governance reform proposal. Every document checked and rechecked. Every clause must be watertight. The only light in the room is the cold white glow of the screen. My phone lights up again. The unsaved number. Several messages in a row. Iris, I know it's you. Your father came to the office this afternoon. He didn't say anything. He just stood outside your old office for a while. The security guard asked if he was looking for someone. He said no. He was just passing by. Walter Harris was in the legal department today, pulling every document you ever signed. He was there all afternoon. I think he's figured it out too. The board members who were in Lucas's pocket have started packing up their offices. Zachary Miller carried a carton of files into the shredding room this afternoon and burned through them for an hour. Too bad everything he shredded was photocopies. The audit team subpoenaed the originals weeks ago. When are you going to tell your father? I read the messages. My fingers hover over the keyboard. I type and delete, type and delete. Finally, I reply. When it's all over. The next morning, 9 o'clock. 42nd floor conference room, Sterling Corporation headquarters. The entire north wall is floor-to-ceiling glass, overlooking half of River City. The morning sunlight pours through, illuminating every face at the table. The long conference table is African winge, dark and massive, covered with a deep gray felt cloth. At each seat, a nameplate, a bottle of water, a crisply printed briefing packet. The directors file in. Walter Harris takes the seat to my immediate left. His iron gray hair is immaculate, his dark gray tunic severe. A Wong Wally walking stick rests against his chair. He is 65 years old and has spent 30 years at Sterling. He served as chief legal counsel under my father and then under me. His eyes are famously sharp, but today, when he looks at me, there's an extra weight of scrutiny. Zachary Miller, the former finance director, is absent. He was arrested yesterday afternoon in the company's shredding room on charges of embezzlement and destruction of evidence. Several mid-level managers closely tied to him have also been brought in for questioning. There are noticeably empty chairs around the table today, like the gaps left by pulled teeth. The other directors' expressions are varied. Some flip through the briefing materials with furrowed brows. Some murmur to their neighbors in urgent undertones. Some sit with hands clasped, projecting watchful neutrality. The air is thick with a subtle tension, not hostility, but the oppressive stillness before a storm. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Luna Ashford, founder of Ashford Capital, and currently the second largest shareholder of Sterling Corporation. I stand at the podium in a navy blue suit, my hair swept into a low ponytail, a simple steel band watch on my left wrist. Lucas Sterling was taken into police custody yesterday on charges of premeditated homicide, financial fraud, and embezzlement. Under Article 17, Section 3 of the company's bylaws, when the CEO is unable to perform his duties, the board shall convene an emergency meeting within 15 business days to elect a new CEO. Today is the 11th business day. But before we proceed, I want to share the results of an investigation. Claire enters through the side door and distributes a bound document to each director. The cover reads, Sterling Corporation Internal Audit Report. The date is yesterday. The cover stock is heavy matte paper, cold to the touch. Over the past 6 months, an independent audit team retained by Ashford Capital has conducted a comprehensive review of Sterling's financial records for the last 3 fiscal years. The audit team is from PricewaterhouseCoopers, jointly commissioned by Ashford Capital and the company's independent directors. The review covers all business lines and all financial accounts. Please turn to page 23. The room fills with the sound of turning pages. Then a long, suspended silence. Then several sharply indrawn breaths. Over the past 3 years, Lucas Sterling embezzled a cumulative total of over $30 million from this company. He accomplished this through inflated procurement costs, falsified vendor credentials, and the transfer of company assets to related parties at below-market valuations. The most egregious instance occurred in the 3rd quarter of last year, in what was described as an overseas strategic investment. He transferred $12 million in Sterling's name to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands with $1 of registered capital. The beneficial owner of that shell company was Lucas Sterling himself. He used the embezzled funds to purchase a luxury residence in Hong Kong and 2 parking spaces. Those who assisted him in these operations include the former finance director, Zachary Miller, and 3 other finance department employees. All relevant evidence has been turned over to the authorities. The tension in the room sharpens. Several directors' faces have gone very grim. They stayed silent for too long during the Sterling era. Now, with the truth laid bare, that silence looks uncomfortably like complicity. Effective today, I will serve as interim CEO of Sterling Corporation, pending the completion of equity restructuring and the judicial process. Ashford Capital currently holds 15% of Sterling's shares, making it the second largest shareholder. In addition, I pull a document from my folio. Mr. Richard Vance, father of the late Iris Vance, has signed a full proxy, delegating the voting rights of his 8% stake to Ashford Capital. Ashford Capital therefore controls a combined voting block of 23%. Are there any objections? Silence. Only the hiss of the air conditioning. The distant hum of the city below. No one speaks. No hands are raised. There is, if anything, a palpable sense of relief in the air. After 6 months of a power vacuum and the public implosion of its CEO, someone has finally stepped forward to take the wheel. Walter Harris is the first to raise his hand. It is thin, spotted with age, the skin so translucent you can see the blue veins beneath. But it goes up steady as a rock. Agreed. His voice is old, but it carries. A second hand. A third. Unanimous. Thank you for your trust. I hereby assume the position of CEO of Sterling Corporation. This meeting is adjourned. When I walk out of the conference room, the hallway is lined with people. Sterling employees. The older ones have been here 10, 20 years. They knew Iris Vance. They knew Richard Vance. The newer ones joined less than a year ago. They've only heard the stories. They stand along both walls, and every gaze locks onto me. No one speaks, but the looks say everything. Curiosity. Awe. Expectation. Relief. Someone whispers, "If only Ms. Vance were still here." The person next to them gives them a sharp nudge. I keep walking. Past the open plan office. Past the break room. Past the corner office where I sat for 5 years. The door is closed. The sign on the door still reads CEO Office, but the brass nameplate beneath it, the one that used to say Lucas Sterling, has been pried off, leaving 4 screw holes. The new nameplate will be installed this afternoon. Walter Harris follows me, his walking stick tapping on the marble floor. Tap, tap, tap. At the elevator bank, he calls out, "Ms. Ashford." A moment. I stop and turn. He steps closer and studies my face, my eyes, my posture, the way I hold my documents in my right hand. Then he smiles. The deep lines around his eyes crinkle together, and the smile is very warm. I am 65 years old. I have been at Sterling for 30 years. I've served under 3 bosses. The first was old Mr. Richard Vance. The second was Iris Vance. The third is you. Director Harris. What can I do for you? He points a bony finger at my right hand. You hold a pen exactly the way Iris Vance did. Ring finger braced under the barrel. It's not standard technique. Old Mr. Vance tried to correct her 100 times. She could never change it. Also, he pauses. When you sign your name, you always add a tiny, almost invisible dot beneath the last character. Iris used to do that. She told me it was an anti-forgery mark she invented herself. She said only 2 people in the world knew about that mark. Her and this old man. His gaze is gentle and utterly certain. So, Iris, welcome back. I freeze. The morning sun pours through the window at the end of the corridor, illuminating the silver in his hair and the deep lines of his face. Uncle Walter. Don't. He waves his hand. If you're going to live as Luna Ashford, then live as her. Iris Vance is dead. She was killed by Lucas Sterling and Chloe Sinclair. In the eyes of the law, in name, in public memory, she's dead. You are a new person now. Whatever you need from me, just say the word. Those whelps in the legal department, I can still keep them in line for you. He turns and walks away, his cane tapping a steady rhythm on the marble. His silhouette stretches long in the sunlight. I stand in the corridor for a long time. My eyes sting. I tilt my head back and force the heat down. Iris doesn't cry. She didn't cry before. She will not cry now. 1 month later. The trial of Lucas Sterling and Chloe Sinclair begins. The court has permitted full live broadcast coverage. The trial lasts 6 days, 1 day longer than scheduled, because the 2 defendants tear into each other in court even more ferociously than anticipated. Both legal teams are forced to request repeated recesses to stabilize their clients. The courtroom is packed. Nearly 300 people fill the gallery. Sterling Corporation employee representatives, journalists from every major outlet, legal scholars, university law students, and ordinary citizens who have followed the case and come on their own. At the back, people are standing, held back by the bailiffs. In the very center of the front row sits a man with snow-white hair, my father, Richard Vance. He wears a faded gray jacket that has been washed too many times and leans on a black lacquer cane. He is thinner than he was a year ago, but his back is still ramrod straight. Claire sits beside him, watchful. When Lucas is let in, he looks nothing like the wild-eyed man from the wedding. He wears a dark blue detention center smock. His head has been shaved to a severe crop, and white stubble is already coming in at his temples. 31 years old. He looks well past 40. He walks to the defendant's dock with his head down and never once looks at the gallery. Chloe is even more startling. She has wasted away to nearly skeletal. Her cheekbones jut out sharply. Her eye sockets are deep hollows. Her collarbones protrude from the neckline of her orange jumpsuit like two clothes hangers. The color makes her skin look jaundiced, dry, dead. She used to spend 2 hours every day on her makeup. Her dressing table was a small city of bottles and jars. It looks like she has not seen a mirror in a very long time. When the bailiffs bring her in, she shuffles without any life in her step, a doll with the stuffing pulled out. The most critical evidence is the 3 recordings I provided. The defense attorneys attempt to challenge their admissibility and authenticity, claiming the source is unknown, the time and place of recording cannot be verified, the audio may have been edited, and the voices cannot be definitively matched to the defendants. A forensic audio expert from the state police takes the stand. Using a 43-page spectrographic analysis and 19 distinct acoustic identifiers, he testifies with over 99.9% confidence that the voices in the recordings belong to Lucas Sterling and Chloe Sinclair. The challenge is dismissed. More devastating is Gus Lawson's live testimony. He is brought in wearing a blue inmate's uniform, looking considerably healthier than he did at the wedding. He testifies in open court about how the intermediary, Victor Young, approached him at the freight depot. How Young set up the meeting at the Gathering Pavilion Tea House on the east side of the city. How Lucas Sterling arrived wearing a dark blue trench coat and a black baseball cap, took off the cap once inside the private room, and how Gus recognized his face immediately. He describes Lucas using his phone to send a GPS pin, accurate to the meter, telling him exactly where to wait. He quotes Lucas's exact words, "Hit her as hard as you can. Don't leave a survivor. Make sure she's dead, and I'll add another $500,000 to the final payment." The testimony interlocks with the recordings with airtight precision. The timeline. Lucas's phone signal enters the tea house area at 3:45 p.m. and remains there for 40 minutes. The call records. At 4:02 p.m., a 6-minute call from Lucas's number to Victor Young. At 4:15 p.m., a 2-minute call from Young to Gus Lawson. The payment. The initial $1 million down payment was transferred through Young's account to Gus's daughter's tuition card 2 days before the crash. The location. GPS data places Lucas's phone on the airport expressway at kilometer 13 at 5:37 p.m. on the day of the crash, less than 2 kilometers from the impact site. He had claimed he was in a company meeting at the time. When the prosecutor projects this evidence onto the courtroom's main screen, the room falls silent for 5 full seconds. The defense has no ground left to stand on. During the final statement phase, Lucas suddenly stands. His lawyer tries to pull him back down, but he shakes him off. He turns to face the gallery, his gaze searching, and finally lands on the center of the front row. On Richard Vance. His eyes redden. His lips tremble. "Dad, Mr. Vance. I'm sorry about Iris. I'm sorry about everything. For 5 years, she did so much for me. When my first business failed, she helped me rebuild. When my father was sick, she found the hospital, she contacted the specialists. She paid for my brother to study abroad. None of that matters now. But I want it on the record. The car accident was not entirely my decision." He draws a shuddering breath and raises his voice. "It was her," he points at Chloe. "She proposed it first. After we got together, she whispered in my ear every single day. She said Iris had too tight a grip on the company. She said as long as Iris was alive, we could never be free. She dismantled me, day by day. Brainwashed me. I admit I was wrong. I was seduced. I was weak. But I am not the mastermind." The gallery erupts. Reporters hammer their keyboards. Flashbulbs go off. The judge slams the gavel 3 times and shouts, "Order." before the noise is barely contained. My father sits motionless in the front row, his face utterly expressionless, watching the defendants dock in silence, as if looking at a piece of old furniture with no value whatsoever. Chloe shoots to her feet. Her face contorts almost past recognition. Her eyes blaze red. Her voice is a jagged shriek. You shut your mouth. You came after me first. You told me you never married Iris for love. You said you targeted her from university. You said she was the sole heir to the Sterling Empire. You said being with me was the first time you understood what real love felt like. You said as soon as she was out of the way we would get married. You said it hundreds of times, hundreds, and now you're blaming it all on me. Order. The judge hammers the gavel again. Bailiffs force both of them back into their seats. They glare at each other across the bars of the dock, eyes bloodshot, chests heaving. The true love, the wedding of the century, reduced to this, the ugliest mutual evisceration in a solemn court of law. I watch it all from the second row of the gallery. My heart is strangely, perfectly calm. No rage, no satisfaction, just a cold, clear, observing stillness. Beside me, Claire's fingers fly over her tablet, taking notes. My father's spine is still straight, but I can see his hand trembling where it grips his cane. On the afternoon of the sixth day, the final verdict is delivered. The courtroom is packed, the air stifling. The judge reads for nearly an hour. First the findings of fact, then the chain of evidence, then the sentencing rationale. Lucas Sterling, on the charge of premeditated homicide, sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, with permanent deprivation of political rights. On the charge of financial fraud, sentenced to 15 years imprisonment and a fine of $20 million. On the charge of embezzlement, sentenced to 12 years imprisonment and a fine of $10 million. The sentences are to be served concurrently, with a final penalty of life imprisonment and fines totaling $30 million. Chloe Sinclair, on the charge of being an accessory to premeditated homicide, sentenced to 12 years imprisonment. On the charge of obstruction of justice, sentenced to 5 years. On the charge of embezzlement, sentenced to 8 years. The sentences are concurrent, with a final penalty of 18 years imprisonment and a fine of $5 million. At the moment the verdict is read, Lucas closes his eyes. His lips move. I cannot tell if he is saying, "I'm sorry," or "I will never accept this." Chloe breaks into audible sobs, low, muffled, her shoulders shaking, the handcuffs clinking faintly with each tremor. The bailiffs lead them out. As Lucas passes the gallery, he stops. He turns his head and finds me. His lips part. In the end, he only manages a bitter, twisted smile, uglier than tears. Then he is pushed forward and gone. Chloe steps slow as she passes my row. She does not lift her head, but she walks slower. Her handcuffs are trembling. I do not know if she has recognized me. Perhaps she has. Perhaps somewhere in the long, long hours of this trial, all the pieces finally click together. The bailiff leads her away. The iron door to the women's detention area clangs shut behind her. I walk out of the courthouse into the sunset. The entire city is washed in orange and gold. The flagpole in front of the courthouse casts a long, stark shadow. I stand on the steps for a moment and see, under a ginkgo tree in the distance, an old man standing. Walter Harris has changed out of his formal wear into a faded gray jacket. He leans on his cane, his hair slightly mussed by the evening breeze. "Miss Ashford, I can finally be sure of one thing today." "What's that?" His gaze is gentle, the way an elder looks at a child he is proud of. "You won. And you won clean. No vigilante justice. No answering violence with violence. You used the law. You used evidence. You used legitimate business maneuvers. If Iris were still here, she would be proud of you. Uncle Walter, I couldn't have done any of it without you preserving those original documents. Don't thank me. You were the one who signed the order for legal to archive them in permanent storage. I was just doing my job, keeping the company's files safe from being destroyed." He pauses. "What about your father? When are you going to tell him?" "Today." He blinks. Then he nods, turns, and walks away, his cane tapping on the pavement. I walk toward the car. Claire is standing beside it, holding an insulated bag. Her eyes are slightly red, but her expression is all business. "Ms. Ashford, everything you asked for is inside. The Longjing tea your father loves. Osmanthus cakes from that old shop on the east side. A copy of today's verdict. Go back to the office and hold the fort. Understood. She turns, takes a few steps, then looks back. Ms. Ashford, your father is going to be very happy to see you. I get in the car, start the engine, and drive east. The old house in the east of the city is a 3-story colonial-era villa. The red brick walls are covered in ivy. The osmanthus tree in the courtyard is in full bloom, the fragrance so thick it's almost tangible. My father has lived in this house for over 30 years. He married my mother here. I was born here. He refuses to move. He says the house still smells like her. I stand at the iron gate, looking up at the lighted window on the second floor. My father's study. For as long as I can remember, he has sat behind that window every night. When I was little, I would stand in the yard and call Dad, and he would lean out and smile and say, "You're back. Have you eaten?" Later, when I took over the company, it became him calling me, "Don't stay up so late." Then I married Lucas, and the window stopped lighting up so often. I pressed the doorbell. The old housekeeper, Mrs. Harper, opens the door. She blinks at me. "May I ask who?" "Luna Ashford, from Sterling Corporation. I'm here to see Mr. Vance." She studies me for a moment. A vague flicker of recognition crosses her face, probably from the news reports about the new female CEO who took over the company. She ushers me inside. The living room is exactly as it has always been. My mother's rattan chair still sits by the window, a half-finished crochet blanket draped over the armrest. On the wall is the family portrait, my father and mother seated side by side, me standing behind them. I was 17. My father comes down the stairs. He is thinner than he was a year ago. The lines on his face are deeper. His hair is almost entirely white, but his back is still straight. His eyes are still clear. He walks with the cane, step by step, very steady. "Ms. Ashford." He sits down across from me on the sofa. His voice is old but steady. "Thank you for coming to see me. Walter told me about you. You are the new CEO of Sterling. Mr. Vance." I place the insulated bag on the coffee table and open it. The fragrance of Longjing tea drifts out. "I brought you your favorite tea. And osmanthus cakes, from that shop on the east side." His gaze lands on the osmanthus cakes and pauses. "That shop makes the most authentic osmanthus cakes in all of River City. They were my mother's favorite. Every year when the osmanthus bloomed, she would buy a box and sit on the balcony with him, drinking Longjing and eating cakes. Outsiders don't know this habit. You're very thoughtful, Ms. Ashford." His voice has gone slightly hoarse. "My late wife and I, we used to enjoy these cakes together." I pour him a cup of tea. The leaves unfurl in the hot water, the liquid turning a clear, bright green, the fragrance rising in wisps. He lifts the cup and takes a sip. Then he freezes. He stares at the cup in his hand. The way he holds it is unusual, the base of the cup resting against his palm, 3 fingers gripping the rim, like cradling a small wine glass. In his entire life, he has only ever known one other person who held a teacup exactly the same way. "You, Dad." I place the copy of the verdict on the coffee table. The stack of paper isn't thick, but what it records is heavy enough. The trial is over. Lucas got life. Chloe got 18 years. The pink diamond ring Mom left me, it's been recovered. It's in the evidence center. They'll release it in a few days. The shares in Sterling are being legally transferred back to you. My father's hand begins to shake. Tea spills over the rim and onto the back of his hand. He sets the cup down. He picks up the verdict and turns the pages one by one, his fingers tracing over every word, every character. When he reaches the last page, he stops. He lifts his head and looks at me. Looks for a long, long time. He searches my face, my eyes, my forehead, my jaw, every tiny contour. This face is nothing like the daughter he remembers. But the thing behind the eyes doesn't change. A person's gaze, the way they look at their own father. That can never be altered. Iris. It is not a question. It is a statement. I take his hand. It is so thin now. The knuckles are large. The skin is fragile as tissue paper, covered with age spots. The same as the year my mother died. Only older. "Dad, I'm sorry it took me so long to come home." He shakes his head. His lips tremble for a long time before he can speak. His eyes redden, but he does not let the tears fall. He has never been a man who cried. The night my mother died, he sat in his study until dawn, and the next morning his eyes were red, but there was not a single tissue on the floor. He simply holds my hand tightly, patting it over and over, the way he used to when I was small and he was putting me to sleep. His palm is still warm. Outside the window, the osmanthus tree stirs in the night breeze, its blossoms rustling, their faint sweetness drifting through the room. The living room is quiet for a long time. Long enough for the tea to go cold. Long enough for the sugar frosting on the osmanthus cakes to begin melting. Dad, I'll come back often from now on. Good. He smiles. The lines around his eyes fold deep. It is the first time this house has seen a smile in over half a year. 3 months later, Sterling Corporation has completed a new round of financing, brought in 2 top-tier strategic investors, and undergone a full governance overhaul. An independent audit committee, transparent internal financial controls, standardized related party transaction approvals, a company-wide whistleblower and feedback mechanism. The share price has not only recovered all its losses, but has surged to a record high. Market capitalization has crossed $150 billion. The cover of Financial Weekly features a photograph of me standing on the rooftop terrace of Sterling Tower, looking out over the city. The headline, in 8 stark characters, in her own name, rewriting the rules. The subheading, 6 months ago, Sterling Corporation was engulfed by a CEO murder scandal, and its stock was in freefall. One woman walked into the center of the storm. With a cool head and iron discipline, she pulled Sterling back from the brink. Who is she? Nobody knows. But everyone is asking the same question. Will Luna Ashford change Sterling's future? The interview takes place in Sterling's top-floor conference room. The entire River City skyline sprawls outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The journalist, Gary Chun, is a veteran financial reporter known for his sharp, unsparing questions. At the end of the session, he asks something that was not on the prepared list. Ms. Ashford, do you have any connection to the late Iris Vance? Some people say your business philosophy is strikingly similar to hers. Conservative growth, a strong emphasis on talent, reluctance to pursue blind expansion, a commitment to employee profit sharing. Veteran employees say your management style, the rhythm of your meetings, the way you annotate documents, it all reminds them of her. Iris used to say, the company belongs to everyone, not just me. At the last all-hands meeting, you used those exact same words. Is that a coincidence? I look at the camera and am silent for a moment. The air conditioning hums faintly. Far outside the window, a plane descends slowly toward the airport, its wing lights blinking against the gray skyline. I never knew Iris Vance, but I have heard a great deal about her. She took over Sterling from her father at 23. In 5 years, she transformed a regional construction materials company into a top 3 national diversified industrial group. She was strict, but never cruel. Every year, she took 2% of the company's profits and distributed it among the employees. She never took a bonus beyond her salary. Before her marriage, she was the youngest female CEO in this city. After her marriage, under her husband's influence, she gradually withdrew from decision-making. She loved this company. She treated it like a second home. I pause. If she were still alive, there is one thing I would want to say to her. What's that? Your enemies have been brought to justice. Your company is in good hands. The people you mentored, Old Joe, Old Zhang, Walter Harris, they're all still here. You can rest now. After the interview airs, the internet explodes. People compare photographs of Iris Vance with photographs of me, analyzing bone structure and facial proportions, writing long essays about spiritual resemblance. Others dig up old news reports from 6 months ago, piecing together the entire timeline of the case. One widely shared piece ends with the line, Iris Vance did not live to see justice, but justice did not go absent. I do not respond to any of the speculation. One weekend afternoon, I drive alone to the cemetery. Iris Vance's headstone stands on a sunny hillside, surrounded by a sea of white wildflowers. The stone is heaped with offerings, some bouquets fresh, still beaded with water, others placed days ago, their petals already dry and curling. The photograph on the stone was taken the year she graduated from university. She is wearing a ponytail, grinning without a care in the world, as if the whole universe were hers to conquer. I bend down and place a single white rose at the foot of the stone. I straighten and look at the photograph. Iris, rest now. Your enemies have answered for what they did. The company is back. I'm taking care of Dad. Uncle Walter is still going strong. His daughter graduated this year and joined Sterling in the same department where you started. Claire is now the director of PR. She's brilliant. You would like her. I'm going now. Next time I come, Sterling's market cap will probably have broken 200 billion. I turn and walk away. Behind me, the hillside of white wildflowers sways in the midday breeze, like 1,000 small hands waving goodbye. Outside the cemetery, the sun is brilliant. My phone rings. Claire. Ms. Ashford, your schedule for tomorrow has been sent. Board meeting in the morning. Meeting with the investors from Aurora Capital at 11. New brand launch at 2 in the afternoon. Dinner with district officials in the evening. Also, Lucas Sterling's appeal was rejected by the High Court this morning. The original verdict stands. Chloe Sinclair did not appeal. Understood. One more thing. Your father came to the office this afternoon. He sat in your office for a while, had a cup of tea, looked out at the river view. He asked me to tell you. He bought 2 mini osmanthus cakes today, so he's left a box for you on your desk. I glance back in the direction of the cemetery. The headstone on the hillside glows warmly in the afternoon sun. In front of it, the white rose sways gently in the breeze. Receive. I hang up, open the car door, and start the engine. The Maybach pulls smoothly out of the cemetery and merges onto the expressway back into the city. In the rearview mirror, the hillside shrinks, blending into the distant line of mountains. On my phone, the unsaved number sends one final message. I've stopped asking if you're back. Because I know now, you never really left. The corner of my mouth lifts. I type my reply, no, I never did. I put the phone away, press the accelerator, and drive toward the deepening glow of the city lights. Night has fallen over River City once again. The colored lights on the bridge come on right on schedule. Tonight, the gradient is red to gold to warm orange, as if someone has forged the sunset into steel and strung it across the river. I know every light in this city. I have walked every street. I remember when every building was built. They don't know who I am, but they have always been here. My name is Luna Ashford, CEO of Sterling Corporation, founder of Ashford Capital. I am 26 years old. This is the first year of my new life. Good night, Iris Vance. Your suffering ends today. Good morning, Luna Ashford. The road ahead is long, but you no longer need to look back.